How do you identify personally and in engineering contexts?
I guess the core of all my identities is that I am Venezuelan. And in this time and age, it means a lot of different things. It means that in order to have a better life, I have to be very hardworking. It means that I am sort of a refugee and escaping for my own well-being, for my life. It also means that whenever I think of home, I feel a lot of resentment and grief because most of my family is still there. And things aren't well over there. And I wish I hadn't left. I wish I could be home with my family. I wish it never got this bad so that I could be able to embrace my heritage better, my culture better, and so that instead of when I go, it just feels like I'm an alien because I don't even have the accent anymore when I speak Spanish. That I feel like, oh yeah, I belong here. This is my home. So it's a sense of alienation on my part as well. And that all led to my mental health being harmed along the way. I don't like the word suffer, but I am more prone to mental health strains. So I can be smiling and being interactive, but I'll be very anxious or nervous. I suffer from depression and anxiety to the point where it gets in the way. Also, because I like being a good student, it frustrates me even more, and it gets worse during finals. And I definitely feel it's something a lot of people don't think about. And it's not something that's visible if you don't make it visible.
What are some identity-related challenges you have experienced in engineering?
I had to move by myself to a U.S. university when I was only 18, and I was not ready to be thousands and thousands of kilometers away from my parents. Entering college, I had no idea about anything. It felt like I dove into a really deep hole and I didn't really know how to swim. It was just a constant surprise and figuring things out. And then the anxiety of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. My parents aren't here. I have to get my own groceries, but I don't have a car, so I have to take the bus. It would take like 2 hours just to get groceries. And it was just very stressful. Mind you, I've always been an anxious child. I've always been very scared of the future, because when you're not stable, when you're just constantly thinking, where am I going to be next month? Where am I going to be next semester? Am I ever going to see my friends again? Am I going to have to say goodbye to my furniture, my stuff? That's when my anxiety really kicked in. And then in the following semester, my roommates were gone. So I was by myself, and that just fueled my anxiety even more because I started feeling like I was abandoned and like I was forgotten. And then that semester, I got really, really sick, and I was going to the doctor every other week, and they just couldn't figure out what was going on. They gave me a million diagnoses, treatments, nothing worked. Later, I was rushed to the ER as I had stones in my gallbladder and appendicitis. It's terrifying to think about now. Had I had this pain by myself in that apartment without any roommates, I don't know if I would have even been able to call 911. I don't know whether someone would have been able to hear me crying in pain and help me out. With mental health, it's hard for you to admit to yourself that you need help because, especially growing up with the childhood that I had, my dad always just said, push through, it's in your mind. You shouldn't be stressed. You shouldn't be anxious or depressed or anything. and it made me deny it and get very frustrated at myself for having it. Because I would think like, why am I depressed? I have so many wonderful things in life. Or, why am I anxious? I know I'll make it. So, it was harder to accept it. And I don't really talk about this with my family. The first time I actually told my mom that I was having issues with my anxiety was last Easter, when I had a horrible anxiety attack. Whenever I get anxiety, it's this feeling of discomfort, and my heart beats a little faster, and I'm not able to breathe well, not able to fall asleep, not able to shut my mind off. But this time, I had so many things going on. All of my classes were super hard. I was working on campus, and I was volunteering, and I had just landed an internship, and I was so happy about it. But I was stressing about all the logistics of finding a place to stay, understanding the area, because it was all the way in California. So I knew my mental health was going to deteriorate horrifically if I had stayed by myself. So I asked my boyfriend to go with me. And then I was fighting with my dad about it. He couldn't get that I needed support. I needed someone to be with me so that I wouldn't feel forgotten or left out. Every day that semester, I was waking up with my heart beating way out of control, with what doctors later diagnosed as tachycardia. Almost every day, my heart was beating way too fast. My blood pressure was low. I was feeling weak, having fainting spells all the time. On the Tuesday before Easter break, I fainted and hit my head. I woke up later on the floor. I don't know for how long I was out, but I didn't go to the hospital because I was scared I was going to be told to stay home, and I had so much school stuff to do. My priority was that I needed to go to class, so I brushed it off. I told my boyfriend, and he got mad because I didn't tell my mom until days later. I was still stressing about a huge project I had due by Monday night. And then on Sunday morning, I just broke down. I was dizzy. I couldn't see well. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus. I could barely stand up. I could barely breathe. My hands were sweaty. My chest was hurting. So I called my mom to tell her how I was feeling. She was like, just go to the hospital, go to the ER. So I went to the ER. I had an Uber take me to the ER because I was home alone. And I was like 10 hours in the ER between CT scans, EKGs, medications, and IV flowing into me because I was dehydrated. At the end of the night, the doctor was just like, everything looks good. And if I may say so, I think you may have just had a panic attack. And I was so mad. I was frustrated and thinking, I just lost all this time when I could have been doing my project. The whole time in the ER, I kept thinking, my project, my project, my project. And as soon as I got home, I emailed my professor, and I had to submit the part of the project that I had done at that point, because it was a group project. He never got back to me about an extension. He actually never responded to that email. So in the next class, I had to show him all my medical stuff that had the hour and the date. And I was like, this is where I was that day, so can I have an extra day to improve the project submission? He didn't allow an extension. So that was horrible. Looking back at it, I should never have to worry about school more than my own health. I should have just been worried about my health. And I was too worried that professors weren't going to understand. And they didn't. And this was going to end up affecting my grades. Why is it so hard to understand that everyone is human and that things can happen? Professors think you're a student first, and then you're a person. Why does school have to be above all? School above everything. Above your health, above disasters, above your life. Why am I nothing but a student? Like this spring, I was taking a MATLAB class that was making me so very anxious, and I didn't even know how to start the homework. I would try to do it, but it felt like my brain was blocking it out completely. Doing those MATLAB assignments would always mean anxiety. I would be anxious just thinking about them, and then worry about them after submitting them. None of the grades of these assignments were up, so I couldn't even see how I was doing in that class. There was one report where I was so utterly lost, and I was ashamed of asking for help again from my classmates because I would always ask someone different to help me out. But this time, I was so ashamed because it's like the 5th assignment that I still can't do. My symptoms were getting worse. I wasn't able to finish an assignment until a week later, a week after it was due. And I was so stressed because I was like, my grade is going to suck if I don't turn this in. So, I finally had to reach out to the professor and tell him, hey, I suffer from anxiety, and this was a really hard week for me to do this report. Could you still accept it? It was terrifying to me to have to go up to the professor and explain the situation. And there was a point where he was just like, you're not lying, right? And I just started tearing up because it was just like, oh my God, hi, like, I'm making myself so vulnerable to you. I'm telling you something that only my boyfriend knows, not even my parents know. My point of view is like, how horrible of a person do you have to be to lie to your professor? And your excuse is, I get anxious? I absolutely understand his questions. They're valid. Like, I know a lot of people don't understand anxiety. My father is one of them. People don't understand how debilitating it is. If you don't experience it, you really can't understand it. But it's just like, why would I lie? That's such a horrible thing. I'm a human being. I can have faults. I can have issues too. And also, I'm a good student. If this is the 3rd class we've had together, you should know I am a good student.
What advice would you give to someone like you in engineering?
I would tell people like myself that no matter what comes along the way, be it an obstacle or a surprise, that you can do it. If you just take one step at a time and remember to be gentle and patient with yourself. You're only human. Not everyone is made the same. There are people that are frail physically, so it's okay to be frail mentally and emotionally. Do not be afraid or embarrassed to talk to someone or seek support within or outside school. There are people out there that will help you, support you. So don't forget that. Don't just brush it off or think, I can do it myself or no big deal. People forget that mental health is just as important as physical health. And if we have annual checkups for our body and go to the doctor when we're feeling bad, then it shouldn't be a stigma to do the same if you're not mentally well.
What would you say to a professor about these issues if you had a chance?
I know that professors are very busy and it's hard, but it would really help if they could just make themselves a little bit more approachable, or just for there to be a way for the students to tell the professor, hey, This is not really an excuse, but I am struggling with this, or I'm having a hard semester and I would really appreciate your help and to be able to talk to you. So when you're teaching, if you could take a few minutes and be like, hey guys, did you have a good weekend, or is everyone doing well? Just sort of remind us that you care. You care about us. You care about us being well. You don't just care about our grade or that we don't cheat. And please don't forget we are human. That means think about how we might not be feeling well any day. We might be feeling overwhelmed. Might be feeling kind of stressed. We're people. We're individuals, and one way or another, you are someone we look up to. And it would be nice not to be treated like just another face in the crowd. Sometimes we don't need you to be a professor. We just need another human being.